Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on cybersecurity. We have our world famous speaker Dr. Tamanna and Mr. David Smith. First, I would like to give chance Dr. Tamanna. Dr. Tamanna.
Yes. Uh,
Dr. Tamanna, can you hear me?
yes, I can. Yeah.
You want to discuss about cybersecurity?
Okay. Cyber security, as such, is the practice of defending computers, servers, mobiles, electronic systems, networks, and against malicious attacks. So these malicious attacks can be anybody, any foreign person who is attacking the system, within it can be inter or intra country. So and the term applies in a variety of ways. So for example, you have network security, which is the practice of securing a computer network from intruders. So whether targeted attackers or opportunities malware. Secondly, application security, which focuses on keeping software and devices free of threats. A compromised application would provide access to data it's designed to protect. Successful security begins in the design stage, well before a program or device is deployed. Then, information security. It protects the integrity and privacy of data, both in storage and in transit. Uh, Operational security, another aspect, which includes the processes and decisions for handling and protecting data assets, the permission users have when accessing a network, and the procedure that determines how and where data may be stored or shall all fall under this umbrella. Then disaster recovery and business continuity is another issue. End user education. So for example, these malicious attackers, they can attack a school, for example. It's extremely dangerous because children are extremely vulnerable to such kind of attacks. They can be showered with the wrong information. They can be showered with pornography, and different kind of things. So school colleges are prone to these kind of things. So I mean, yeah, I guess this is my opening remark. Yeah.
Mr. David Smith, what you want to discuss
Well,
about
Sharif,
cybersecurity?
Thank you so much for letting me be on the program. Cybersecurity is one of the most important issues we have today in looking at our homes, at our companies, at our governments, uh, and all of the intersections of it. Uh, it is the top of challenges for many people and corporations and others, and it is continuing to ramp up more. The cybersecurity market, though, is worth about $174 billion in 2022 and is uh, expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of about 8.9% and should be around 267 billion by 2027. And as she was saying, it touches many different places, but it is primarily driven by the increasing number of data breaches across the globe. The fact that everything has become digital, everything is becoming connected, and we're seeing really tremendously more sophisticated cyber intrusions uh, happening. Uh, the scope and scale of them are dramatically going up, and even extremely large companies are impacted. Boeing uh, recently, actually last week, had a ransomware breach that crippled part of their systems. And Boeing, on their defense side, actually provides cybersecurity to many corporations in the government. So to see a breach like that at Boeing is extremely troublesome when you look at it from a global perspective. Um, and according to a recent survey by McKinsey, uh, the total market, if you look across all the different uh, areas of cybersecurity with the technology, the software, and the service providers, they believe it's a 1.5 to $2 trillion addressable market. And the survey uh, reinforced something I believe very strongly, in that the currently available commercial solutions do not fully meet customer demands in terms of capabilities, integration, automation, pricing, and other services. Uh, and the gap between this vendor market and the fully addressable market is huge. And there's going to be a lot more opportunities out there. Dr. Sharif, you often, and I tend to be more the one who answers it, ask what's the impact on entrepreneurs? What's the impact on startups? And in cybersecurity, the opportunities are huge, but also it's a very crowded market. In North America, United States, Canada, and Mexico, there are over 100,000 cybersecurity companies and cybersecurity providers. Yet, really, none of them can do the whole thing. So that's part of this, is that today you have to, as a leader, as a cybersecurity, as a CISO or others, uh, you have to put together your own systems. And sometimes you have to use a little bit of glue and a little bit of string and a little bit of tape to tie them all together, because they really don't work with each other. And oftentimes one system gets messed up by another cybersecurity system, and you have that going on. So it's a very open market for startups, and it's going to continue to grow there. Uh, and there's a saying there, if you haven't been attacked, you just don't know you haven't been attacked, because you have been attacked. You have been probed. There have been folks who have tried to go ahead and penetrate your system. I can tell you, just looking at my logs on my home network, much less my company network, I have scans of my ports going out to the public internet happening between 500 to 1,000 times a day. And our system blocks them, our system redirects them, but it's important for everything. People used to think that Mac computers were kind of immune to cybersecurity attacks and to viruses like that. They're not anymore. They're actively targeted. We tend to trust as we go along. For example, public Wi-Fi spots in coffee shops and things like that, public internet access facilities. I would not connect to one without a strong personal firewall on my notebook. And my connections, whenever I go in those, I always use a very strong virtual private network, VPN, to help protect the data. And even then, you still see it. I see every day reports of viruses being injected into people's computers who are connecting at coffee shops, at restaurants, at airports, and other places like that. So the threat environment is really pretty strong out there. And like I said, it's really growing quite a bit. And you see people like Checkpoint, CrowdStrike, you see Cisco, Dell, others like that, standing up fairly large security operations because the threat is so big. Also, though, the trends of BYOD, I'm sorry, bring your own devices, this massive influx of AI that people trust without knowing anything about it. The Internet of Things, the number of devices, sensors, and the fact that machine learning is becoming so widespread right now. Uh, the impact on cybersecurity is just really growing quite a bit. And some interesting things, like, for example, machine learning offers advantages in detection of cybersecurity attacks, but machine learning also lets the bad guys be more efficient in their cybersecurity attacks. So it's really a a problem on all sides. The If I look at the current market, there's three mega clusters where you see a lot of cybersecurity development happening. One of them, before the war, there right now was in Israel. Israel has some of the most advanced cybersecurity companies. You see it around Washington, D.C., you see it around San Francisco. We're beginning to see cybersecurity happening a little bit more in Greece and a few other countries too. But it really is interesting that the first three that we talked about is that the startup and high tech innovation culture is high in all those areas, which is a significant driver. And cybersecurity is one of the main pillars for letting digital companies grow, for letting companies that are heavily dependent upon it, like advanced manufacturing things, grow. Uh, and so you see that. There's a need, though, for really service companies to come into play. Uh, they're over 40% of the cybersecurity job openings that are available today are not filled because there's just not qualified people to fill them. And you see that globally. And so education in colleges, universities, in trade schools, and boot camps and others are going to be really very, very necessary. And particularly in Asia Pacific, Latin America, and the Middle East, the availability of qualified security professionals to handle the cyber threats for financial institutions, healthcare institutions, government, and private sector and business, as well as the military, are going unfilled because there's just not people available with the skills and can begin to do the work. The other thing is begin to, for example, if I look at some of the international market size for cybersecurity, there's always a huge gap, and it's growing rapidly in all the markets, and we will see that. Some of the places where we're also seeing tremendous weakness is in some of the cloud security. It's a cat mouse game, but the Internet of Things and the fact that we're going to more edge computing, where all the devices are becoming intelligent, that is really pushing the need for cybersecurity to whole new levels. And Sharif, I think I've probably done enough for an opening comment, so let me give it back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Tamanna.
Yes. Actually, in India, if you, I'll refer to India in this particular, at this particular juncture. India has averaged 1.3 million cyber attacks since 2020, and cyber attacks entail an extreme amount of financial cost. So, social media related crimes such as cheating by impersonation, cyber bullying, sexting, and email phishing, these are some of the prominent offenses. So for example, what are the different kind of cyber security threats? First is malware, is a form of malicious software in which any file or program can be used to harm a computer user. So different types of malware includes worms, viruses, trojans, and spyware. Secondly, ransomware is another type of malware that involves an attacker's locking the victim's computer files, typically through encryption and demanding a payment to decrypt and unlock them. Then social engineering is another way of attacking that relies on human interaction. It tricks user into breaking security procedures to gain sensitive information that is typically protected. Then phishing. It is a form of social engineering which is fraudulent email or text messages that resemble those from reputable or known sources are being sent to the victim. Often random attackers, the intent of these messages is to steal sensitive data such as credit card or login informations. Then spear phishing is this is a type of phishing that has an intended target user, organization or business. Insider threats are security breaches or losses caused by humans, for example, employees, contractors, or customers. Inside threats can be malicious or negligent in nature. Then DDoS attacks, that is distributed denial of services attacks, are those in which multiple systems disrupt the traffic of targeting system such as server, website, or other network resources. Then man in the middle attacks, MITM, are eavesdropping attacks that involve an attackers intercepting and relaying messages between two parties who believe they are communicating with each other. Then advanced persistent threats are prolonged targeted attacks in which an attacker infiltrates a infiltrates a network and remains undetected for a long period of time with the aim of stealing data. In fact, now, I mean, as David was also talking about bad guys, you have terrorists, for example, trying to attack the government security network. So and those kind of threats have been there in India. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be world over. These problems are going to be there, but India is facing these problems. So it's of cyber security is a major concern these days because everything is being done on the computers itself, on the systems. So it is a major problem right now for the whole world. It's a total nuisance which has been created because everything now, most of our data, even in the developing world, everything is being done on the computers. So nothing is done on writing on the papers or something. Everything is on the computers. So the threat is much more right now rather than 2 decades before. So now I mean, it can be a major problem for developing world because I mean, if their data is stolen, it's going to result in a major, it can, for example, if something imagine if something wrong happens to a country which is a rival country kind of gets into your system and gets hacks the data. That's going to result in a major chaos because countries knowing about each other's secrets is a major threat. So I guess that is India is facing that problem right now, that they might just be able to tackle this problem with right kind of cyber security uh, systems so in place. And so so yeah, so threat detections have to be done, for example, in these areas, and threat response have to come about from AI platforms also create an automatically intact security protection. So AI is a source where it can do a better job rather than which is being done right now. Human augmentation. Security pros are often overloaded with alerts and repetitive tasks. So AI can help eliminate alert fatigue by automatically triggering low risk alarms and automating big data analysis and other repetitive tasks, freeing humans from more sophisticated work. Other benefits of automation in cybersecurity includes attack classification, malware classification, traffic analysis, and compliance analysis, and more. So, cybersecurity is AI can help you in a big way. So yeah, Dr. Sharif.
Thank you, Mr. David Smith.
You're muted.
So I enjoyed what I was saying. I'm, you did an excellent job of highlighting many of the different elements of cybersecurity. But cybersecurity is really very complex in that you have the people who are attacking using technology to attack. You have the people attacking who are using social interaction to attack. You have people doing things within the network. You have people trying to penetrate your facilities, and you're having people embed things, not just in emails that are coming to you, but even on websites that when you click looking for information, some of the websites can download bad things into your devices as well. So trying to come to this from a little bit balanced perspective, the greatest threat for cybersecurity is from people, and people are the weakest link. You know, if you think about walking through offices that are not well versed in cybersecurity, I will bet you if you walk through a 100-person office with 100 computers on desk, notebooks and things, I bet you will find a percentage there where they've written their password down on a post-it note or something. So that is not secure. I see people all the time in public get up and walk away from their notebooks and leave them unlocked. And that means they're unsecure, that you can go do things with it. So that's one. So one of the huge trends today is that there has to be a human-centric security design. By 2027, Gartner estimates that over 50% of large enterprise chief information security officers, CISCOs, will have adapted human-centric security designs. And because traditional security has failed to reduce unsecured employees' behavior. And it's really a challenge you will see there. One of the companies I founded is a healthcare company, and we were going through a security audit, and they tested the people side tremendously. But we were lucky; we had implemented a human factor security as part of our corporate operation. That when people got up and left their computers on their desk, if they did not lock them and secure them, the team, someone discovered that they would give them a pink stuffed hippopotamus animal that they had to carry to meetings, all the meetings they attended, until someone else got to receive that. That cut the number of that type of security violations down by over 99% and made it much more secure. So much, in fact, that the auditors collected that as the best practice, and the other companies that came in looked at us, adapted that type of approach as a best practice, begin to use it. But it just illustrates again, even in place where security is extremely important, people are still the weakest link. And that as you look at cybersecurity, you have to address that. We had a fun way of doing that where the team addressed it versus management having to address it, which made it so much more efficient, I believe, than the other way around. The next thing is that many companies are behind on updating the technology for cybersecurity. So traditional leaders need to focus not just on technology, but also the processes on how to do it. They have to look at, do they have enough human capital, enough people in-house? And they are looking at ways to do it. Many companies are actually beginning to grow internal talent to be in a cybersecurity role versus hiring it from outside. The other thing you're seeing is uh, if I look at a general trend across businesses, technology in most businesses is moving from a central IT function to lines of businesses where you see the technologies fusing more with the team and individual employees. And that is very high. But business leaders now widely accept that cybersecurity risk is a top business risk to manage. And it is not a technology problem to solve. And they're having to begin to do that. So you're seeing a need to transform the cybersecurity operation model, and from just a corporate level dotting the I's and crossing the T's to something more that supports value creation. And that is one that's going to be important for the cybersecurity to actually be able to be used. The next trend that's really happening is that the attack surface of modern enterprises, be it a company, a university, a government body, uh, they're all becoming much more complex. And it really creates an environment where, like I said earlier, there's not a single product that can begin to address all of those. And I haven't seen a single product that can even address half by itself. So you're going to begin to see a really enhanced view of trying to understand the threat exposure across these, because many times people thought it was as simple as installing virus protection on your machines and on the firewalls, and it clearly is not. The other big trend is identity protection, and we know I do not have a friend that I can think of that has not been touched somewhere, somehow, by some identity problems, either online, with credit cards, or other things. And that is part of cybersecurity. And it needs to be again strengthened again. And identity theft, identity protection is really very much of a human-centric thing as well, too. So you have to begin to understand those. One of the other elements that the doctor addressed was business continuity. Business continuity is both a business issue, and business continuity is both a cybersecurity issue too, particularly with the ransomware attacks. I've had one of my sites attacked with a ransomware attack. And luckily, our systems detected it. We were able to shut down, deal with the ransomware. But because we have very good business continuity, the way we do backups, we were able to reestablish that site off of our continuous backups and lost no information, which is not the norm in a ransomware attack. And because we detected the ransomware, we're able to block the source that the ransomware attack came from. But all that is tied into how we approach our business continuity as well. And so cybersecurity, as both of us have been saying, is a complex area with many pieces. And it's not a simple one. And the education to inform everyone has to increase as you begin to move forward. And you're going to see into cybersecurity. because the attacks are getting so sophisticated and they're coming so fast that you cannot just rely on humans to do it all. And on the other hand, humans are very, very important of it, both, as I said before, of the education and awareness, but actually in responding to attacks in there. And, part of it is simple things. I would almost challenge Dr. Shreve, everyone who is listening to your broadcast today, to go and look at their mobile devices and see, are they up to date on the patches? I can tell you, on my iPhone yesterday, there was a small patch that came out yesterday, and it was updated. I update my programs, my operating systems all the time. Uh, on my iPhone this morning, there were 21 program updates, and probably a third of those were security updates. So the fact that you need to, on all your devices, even your televisions that are network-centric televisions with streaming, go in and check the system settings on them and do the system update. Many of those patches are for security. Uh, and it's since I mentioned televisions, it's really easy for me to take over a television, a smart television set, where I can take control of the camera if it has a camera in it. I can turn it into where I can hear what's being said in the room and stuff. All of these are important. That's why you have to have cybersecurity from where the signal enters your house, your business, all the way through to the individual devices. Dr. Shreve, I hope this helps.
Yes.
Thank you. Dr.
He-
Tamanna, what's your closing remarks for today's session?
Yeah. One of my areas of concern is feminist contribution to cyber security. That's very interesting, actually. It's an evolving field. And feminists like Donna Haraway started off in the 80s itself, talking about cyber security in the West, for example. So it's obviously well known that there are certain groups, social groups, which are at more at disadvantaged position as far as cyber security is concerned. They're some more vulnerable. So peers, for example, said that it recognizes that different population and individuals have different types and degrees of digital security vulnerability and may be subject to varying attacks. Gender blind cybersecurity policies will not protect everyone's equally, and may even affect historically criminalized groups such as sex workers. That is the case for example, a Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act and the Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act passed in 2018 by the US Senate. Sex workers have fewer advanced safety precautions in place, no ability to effectively pre-screen clients, and no way to ensure that they can work in safe environments. In this context, cyber sex, a queer feminist collective working to empower LGBTQIA people, workers and sex workers in the use of online services and digital tools, drafted a manual which was called Localizing Digital Self-Defense Guides for Sex Workers. So, totalitarian governments are instrumentalizing cybersecurity policies to increase crackdown on dissent and shrinking civil society spaces. So all these things have to be taken care of. Women, for example, I mean, cyber feminism is a very coming latest field which has come into the picture, and many of but it's still to catch up in the developing world. And I mean, in fact, I had proposed I had made a proposal also on the need for cyber feminists in the current situation in India. So we need to advance that field, and in colleges, etc., so that people really know that, because feminists are they are basically, feminism is concerned about about areas which are of all, which are of concern to all the social groups which are vulnerable. So they are just not concerned about women, but several other uh, areas. So I guess that would help, I guess. Yeah, thanks.
Mr. David, what's your closing remarks?
Dr. Sharif, you always pick great topics, and cybersecurity should be top of mind for everybody. It's that important if you begin to look at it. Uh, there are some new trends out there. There's a lot of good sites. One of the best sites for individuals and companies to come up to speed and is in the United States, we have something called the National Institute of Standard and Technology, NIST. And NIST actually on their website has a cybersecurity framework. They have cybersecurity tools you can use to test your networks, to test your machines, and they have good pointers on how to implement appropriate cybersecurity models and processes and procedures. So that's one of many sites, but that one particularly is very comprehensive and one that I would encourage people to use. Also, there's a new trend that is happening across the industry, and it's called zero trust. And what zero trust means is that really virtual private networks today are unable to meet scalability demands. So zero trust is a multi-tiered approach that's scalable and secure, and it's based on the concept of never trust, always verify, which means that just because users can be identified and authenticated, they are not granted blanket access to all the resources. So in a zero trust environment, users are continuously validated, reassessed, and really reauthorized using multiple ways to do authentication. And yes, sometimes this can be uh, irritating to us, but it really is a great way to be there. Uh, in the United States, the president here has released a memo that is mandating all federal agencies to adapt a zero trust architecture by the end of 2024. And Gartner, the analysis firm, believes that zero trust network access is the fastest growing form of network security. And so that is one of the big things you're seeing there. In addition to that, let me just kind of close with some other rules you have to follow. Uh, you need to have a very robust backup and recovery system. That business continuity type things we talked about before. This is useful in uh, many different areas from ransomware to viruses to and internal threats. Uh, you need to, as I said before, you need to patch and maintain your software and securities patches that are up to date. Training, user training, management training. You have to constantly train people and remind them uh, and push it there. You really have to do security audits. Uh, we've made a commitment that we used to do a penetration test once a year. We're doing a simple pen test every quarter and a very thorough pen test every year. But you need to begin to look at the things. You need to think about how to do identity verification. I have some of my accounts where I have a 3-step security on it. You know, you've seen the ones where you enter your username, password, and then it will text you another number that needs to be entered. Things like that should be very common today and is a good practice. You need to do something called micro segmentation. So what you want to do is segment your application, segment your data, segment your network into smaller, more isolated sections. And movement across these should be based on the principle of the least privileged access, not the most privileged. So you also need to have really strict access controls. You have to continuously monitor it too. It's not something that you can just step back and say, I've installed a technical system, everything's going okay. Because with as fast moving as the bad guys are getting, uh, that is not true anymore. Uh, we did one study for a several years ago for a a U.S. agency that was looking at the introduction of new programs, of new ways to control access to content. And what we found was that on average, there was an exploit released to the dark web that could help get around that new security advancement several days before the advancement was actually released to the public. So it really is this cat and mouse game. And it's one that you have to continually be diligent about, and one that you need to understand. In my company, just as an example, we use 6 major types of databases. Each of them is encrypted with a different encryption key, so that if one encryption key is ever compromised, you don't get access to all the data. We use segmentation very extensively. We put security not only on the top end of our systems, but also on the back end of our system. Many exploits come from the back end. And as you've heard, we also spend a lot of time educating our employees and testing our employees. And that is a very important thing you have to do today in today's cybersecurity environment. Sharif, I wish there was a way where it could be secured, but even you've heard about quantum encryption. And now we're finding that there's also quantum cybersecurity threats as well. So even as we move forward with these much more secure systems, people are using that same technology to begin to become that much more active from the bad guy side, wanting to compromise your systems, take money from you, steal your data, steal your identity, and compromise you. So it's something that is going to continue to be top of mind, should be top of mind. And once again, it's a tremendous opportunity for your universities, for your startups, for your entrepreneurs to look and try to design the next fully integrated solutions for cybersecurity. So I guess that's my concluding remarks.
Thank you. Thank you for joining today's sessions. Thank you, Mr. David Smith, and thank you, Dr. Tamanna. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.